my name is Nix. I'm an art school dropout who's been doing art as a hobby and occasionally as a career for well over 10 years now. Today, I'll be attempting to draw one of my OCs, Benji, in 10 different art styles to see how well I can replicate him in those styles. But before I get into my list of styles that I'll be drawing him in, I think we should get a baseline for what the character should look like first. The first style I'll be drawing in today is my own style. This way you can see what Benji is supposed to look like before I mess with him and play around with him in a bunch of ways in all the other styles that I'll be doing today. I'll talk a little bit about him as a character as I draw him each time, because he's one of my 3 main OCs and I love him. But since this is an art style challenge, I'll mostly be focusing on the art and techniques put into the drawing. If you guys want to know more about him, I'll link my unveil in the description. Not a sponsored video or anything, I just genuinely use the website and have all my character lore posted on there, so if you want to know more about him, it's the best place to learn his lore and story. Okay, so Benji. Who is he? Simply put, Benji is 2 things. A clone and a living weapon. He was made by a powerful arcanist named Benjamin Kellogg from a spell, created as a magical duplicate of the man's past self. So, his name is also Benjamin Kellogg. To clear confusion between the two, the older Benjamin Prime goes by his last name Kellogg, and the younger duplicate that I'm drawing here today goes by the nickname Benji. Benji was created to be a living weapon. Kellogg is experimenting on him and having him trained to become such a powerful magic user that Benji's whole purpose in life is to kill one of the gods in their world. I won't get into their motivations too much, but Kellogg's whole goal is basically to usurp a goddess named Chaos and take the power for himself, and to do that, he needs to kill her first. But Kellogg is like in his 40s and a nerdy scientist. He's powerful, but he's kind of washed up against a god, you know? So that's why he created Benji to help him do it. Kellogg is obsessed with Benji getting stronger, so much so that he even replaces his dominant arm with an enhanced magical prosthetic to make his magic casting even more powerful. Sure, he lost his arm, but his magic is stronger, right? Being the clone of the villain in your story surely has no downsides to it. Anyways, about my art style. My art style changes a lot, and I'm always experimenting with how I draw, but I do have a few characteristics I tend to hold on to when I'm drawing characters from Project Arcanist, especially full bodies like this. I love using Clip Studio Paint's basic Milli pen, because it gives lines with no pen pressure. That way I can focus more on the quality of the lines and less on how hard I have to press to get the right weight to them. If I want variation, I'll go back and manually add some variation in the line weight myself, but typically I keep all my lines uniform. I'm also a massive defender of the paint bucket tool. In my early days, I used to manually paint in everything, spending hours painting in every last detail. Now I just line every spot where the colors change and fill everything in with the bucket tool. I do minimal amounts of cell shading where I think gives some interest so it's not so flat, and I always love coloring my line work. I think coloring my line work is what really makes everything in my style come together. And here he is! That's 1 Benji down and 9 to go. Now that we have a basis for what he's supposed to look like, it's time to get into the challenge. All of the art styles I have chosen are because I think they're instantly recognizable, distinctive, and just because I think they would be fun to draw. Some of them I'm fans of their media, but some of them I'm just an appreciator of the style and I want to see how well I can mimic it. Without further ado, let's get into the styles. First up is Naruto. I've actually been in a Naruto phase recently with my boyfriend and our mutual friend. We've been creating Naruto OCs together and even rewatching parts of Shippuden. So it seemed fitting to try and draw Benji in this iconic style. I tried to keep his outfit mostly similar to his usual outfit, while adding a little bit of that distinctive Naruto flair. I drew him as the equivalent of a Jonin, but I imagine he's actually a rogue ninja. In Project Arcanist, him and Kellogg are on the run from their home country and are wanted for heresy. So I think it would fit if in this Naruto AU version of the lore, he and Kellogg had forsaken their hidden village and created their own evil ninja group. I'm not quite sure what their goal would be in this Naruto universe, but they would at least be rogue ninjas. I made a little symbol on his shirt, inspired by the symbol that I use for the goddess Chaos, to kind of represent that he would be a part of this evil organization. I also gave him bandages on his left arm to kind of represent what would normally be his prosthetic arm, since I didn't really think it was fitting for him to have a robotic mecha arm in this style. Sure, they have tech and stuff in Boruto, but this is Shippuden era that we're drawing here. As for the art style itself, I had a lot of fun drawing in this style. I feel like it wasn't too difficult for me to adapt to, and I had fun experimenting with the different shapes that the style pulls from to look recognizable. I definitely drew a lot of reference from one specific picture of Kakashi, but I think it really helped to sell the look of the style. I also color picked all the colors from screenshots, which I think also helped. The good thing about anime art styles is that most tend to have a pretty static line width to make the process of animating them easier, which is perfect for me since I'm used to working with unvaried line width anyways. It was a great way for me to dip my toe into different styles before jumping into the deep end, and I'm really happy with how he turned out. Ace Attorney. Oh boy, do I love Ace Attorney. It's my favorite video game of all time, and if you're curious, I ranked them at Ace Attorney 4 first, Ace Attorney 1 and 3 tied for second, Ace Attorney 5th in third, Ace Attorney 2nd in fourth, and in last place, Ace Attorney 6th. I'm sorry, 6, but I just could never get into your mechanics and storyline. For this drawing, I made Benji a prosecutor. I guess in this AU, Kellogg would have been like the Manfred von Karma of this universe, so Benji would be like Edgeworth. Honestly, Edgeworth was one of Benji's inspirations when I was creating his character, so it's kind of fun to reimagine him in this concept. I gave him a vest similar to Apollo and Godot, to kind of mimic his sleeveless shirts. I can't exactly have him be sleeveless in court. I also referenced Beric von Zeeks from the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles on how to draw his hair in this style. I decided not to give him his prosthetic arm in this universe since I figured in a world where he's not training to become a powerful arcanist, it wouldn't make sense for him to have lost his arm in the first place. I did, however, still give him the scar on his face. He normally gets the scar in a fight with another OC of mine, but the details on how he got his scar in this universe don't really matter, I suppose. I did end up editing this drawing a little bit after I exported the speed paint, changing the tie color and rendering the hair shading and the eyes just a little bit more, since I wasn't super happy with it. Small changes, but I did want to point it out. I had a lot of fun drawing in this style. Benji was originally supposed to be from a visual novel, which I eventually scrapped, so it was a lot of fun to reimagine him in a visual novel style. Honestly, it makes me just want to pick up Renpai again and try and make a game for his lore, but who knows, maybe one day. Total Drama Island is a show I used to watch religiously as a child, but now remember next to nothing about as an adult. I remember I used to be obsessed with it when it first aired on Cartoon Network, and I remember I always loved how distinct and stylized each of the characters were. It used so much shape language, and really pushed the proportions of each character to make them look unique, all while looking super cohesive and unified as one art style. It was super inspiring to my young artist brain, even if I never drew direct inspiration from it myself in my art. Still, when I set out to do this challenge, I knew from the start that this was one of the styles that I wanted to tackle. I definitely used a lot of reference, pulling inspiration from Justin, Alejandro, Brick, and Topher. I'll be honest, I only remember Justin and Alejandro, but the other two were great for style reference at least. I honestly did not enjoy drawing this, but it's called a challenge for a reason, and not all the styles will be fun and easy. Despite not liking drawing it, I still think it turned out really, really well. Something I did for the first time in this drawing was try out Clip Studio Paint's vector layers. I would draw the lines past how far they needed to be, then erase them with the vector erase tool, and bam, super crisp and clean line art with sharp edges. It was actually super satisfying, and I do think I'll be using this method a lot more in the future. Other than that, it was just some flat colors which took 2 seconds and some final adjustments, and bam, we have our drawing. My Little Pony is a show I've had some interaction with, but I've never been a die-hard fan of. I had friends that were huge fans of the show, so I absorbed a lot of it through them, and I remember watching some of the movies and a little of the show, but I never sat down and watched the full show, let alone a full season. Still, I know enough about the show to get by. I started off just trying to emulate the style as well as I could, not really focusing too much on Benji as a pony. I started off drawing him as an earth pony and only realized after fully coloring him that wait, hold on, his whole story is focused around magic. He should totally be a unicorn! So I did end up changing that at the end. I stuck mainly to using greens and browns for his color palette since those are the colors I associate most with him. For his cutie mark, I really struggled. I wanted it to be a green flame with sparkles around it, but I couldn't figure out a good way to simplify it to my liking, so I stuck with just a green flame on its own. I chose a green flame because in his canon, Benji studies pyromancy, and his magic manifests as green flames when he fights. That's why in the first drawing I drew him with that big green flame. It was really easy for me to emulate this style, and I didn't have much difficulty with it at all. The only difference from my normal art style is the varied line width in some places, but other than that, it shares a lot of traits. The flat, simple colors, the colored line art. Still, it was fun to practice, and I think he turned out really cute. I love Cookie Run, but I have to admit, I'm a fake fan. The only game I ever played was Cookie Run Puzzle Quest, their Match 3 game. I never played Cookie Run Kingdom. But when I did play Cookie Run Puzzle Quest, back when I worked as a manager in retail, when I would be alone in the store with nothing to do but scroll on my phone for hours, yeah, I played the hell out of Cookie Run Puzzle Quest, and I loved every single cookie in that game. I think I could have done better in the rendering of this drawing. Cookie Run Kingdom official art is very rendered and painterly, and I simply didn't do that. I think I'm just not comfortable with painterly styles yet, and I didn't stray too far outside my comfort zone for this, keeping it pretty flat with only a few gradients. Still, stylistically, I think it definitely comes across that he's from Cookie Run and that he's a cookie. Maybe just more so as an in-game sprite than an official artwork. I referenced Cappuccino Cookie, Almond Cookie, and Olive Cookie for this drawing, but mostly Cappuccino Cookie because honestly, he kinda looks like Benji. Maybe you're more like Kellogg because Kellogg also has a ponytail. I didn't really change his design at all and instead just focused on following the style, especially focusing on the varying line weight because that's such a big part of this style. I had a lot of fun playing with his noodly limbs and the goopiness of his icing expression. All in all, I think he turned out really well. And if you're curious, I think he would be called Cinnamon Whiskey Cookie, because his favorite drink after a long, hard day of work is a glass of cinnamon whiskey. This style is the last style I decided on, actually adding it midway through the challenge to replace another style I just really wasn't excited for or wanting to draw at all. It was definitely my fastest style to draw, and I think it only took me something like 30 minutes? I mostly referenced Rocco and Hachiwara because I knew I wanted him to be a cat and I wanted him to be slightly fluffy. There's really not much I can say about this style. It's broken down into some really simple shapes, and the line art has a lot of space to it, if that makes sense. Not everything is touching, there's some gaps here and there that make it feel really open. I feel as long as you get the body shape and the eyes right in this style, then it ends up looking really passable no matter what you do with the rest of it. Of course, I had to give him his little scar, but I really simplified it like Rocco's. And then, with some simple super colors, he's already done! Alright, let's bring out the cringe. I became a fan of Homestuck almost 15 years ago at this point, which is crazy to think about. I'm not a huge fan of it anymore, but when thinking of styles to draw in, I definitely wanted to do this one for the nostalgia factor. For this AU of Benji, I decided to draw him in as God tier, which meant I had to think about what his God tier would even be. I ended up settling on the Prince of Rage, one of his biggest character flaws is his anger issues and temper flares, so I could see that somehow playing into his class spec. Especially with Prince's being so centered around destruction, and his whole canon reason for his creation being to destroy something. But I'm getting ahead of myself, and I could ramble for hours about this. The other thing I had to decide on was his arm. I decided not to give him his prosthetic mechanical arm, because he was god tier, and like Vriska, I figured it would have healed and been replaced once he ascended. I only realized afterwards that Caliborn also had prosthetic, but it stayed with him after he ascended to god tier, so it's definitely like a player-on-player basis thing. But whatever, I don't think it's a huge deal. I think as a player, at some point in the game, he would lose his arm, replace it with the mech arm, and then it would heal once going god tier, just like Vriska. That's all. The style itself was super nostalgic. I specifically referenced this one panel of Dave in god tier, but it was super easy for me to emulate the style even after years of not drawing in it. It's fairly simple, rounded shapes. The hardest part for me was that it was all lineless, something that I'm not used to doing, but I think it turned out well regardless. Next up is the anime Panty Stocking. This is such an instantly recognizable style. I'll be honest, I don't remember much about the anime itself as I haven't watched it in years, and the only thing I've seen from it recently is that fuck shit song that Panty sings in the new series. I haven't kept up with it at all. But I've been a huge sucker for the art style. I just think it's so unique and so different from how I normally draw. I really wanted to push myself to try a bunch of things I don't normally do by drawing in this style. First off, the line weight. Panty Stocking has super varying line weight. It's one of the things that makes the style so instantly recognizable. The sharp points, the way lines go from super thick to super thin, the overall proportions of the characters themselves, these are all things I had to really pay attention to when I was drawing Benji in this style. I didn't change up his design too much, instead focusing on just translating him to the style as accurately as possible. I drew a lot of inspiration from the characters Brief, Polyester, and Polyurethane for this drawing. I've drawn in this style once before, but it's been years and I was super rusty. Still, I tried my best. My favorite part about this drawing is definitely his arm. I don't know, I just think it looks really cool in this style and I really love it. My second favorite part would be his hair, which I think made look really in style and I'm very proud of. The final style that I drew in was the Pokemon art style, specifically the anime. I mostly referenced the old OG anime with Ash and Gary, as well as actual Pokemon sprites for the pose. Like I said with Naruto, I find anime art styles to be easier because of their similarity to my normal art style with flat colors and static line width, so I didn't have too much trouble with drawing in this style. I also think Benji looks a little weird here, because I drew him on the younger side. I didn't give him his stubble because I imagine he would just be starting his Pokemon journey, so he would be like a young teenager. Usually he has a different hairstyle as a teenager, but to keep him consistent with the rest of the style challenge drawings, I just drew him with his normal slicked back hair, but I just think he looks strange in the style. Like I don't recognize him, almost. That's not to say that I think this drawing is bad, or that I don't like it. I don't know. I just think out of all of the drawings, this one is my least favorite. There has to be one. Oh, and in case you're curious, his starter would be lit. And there we have it! All 10 art styles completed. I'm super proud of myself for attempting this challenge, and even happier with the results. I definitely recommend giving this challenge a try yourself with an OC, or even with fan art of a character you like, as I feel I learned a lot from studying all these styles that I can now put into my own art style. Let me know what you think of all these drawings in the comments. Which art style was your favorite? Definitely let me know! Making this video was definitely a labor of love, so if you liked it, please like the video and maybe even subscribe. If enough people are interested, maybe I'll make a lore video about my OC universe, Project Arcanist. I've been wanting to make more videos and share my stories, but I'm not really sure where to start, so this drawing challenge was kind of a way to practice making a video about Benji and ramble about him without it being too heavy on lore or anything like that. A warm-up video, some might say. Who knows, maybe if it does well enough I'll make more. Anyways, thank you so much for watching me draw my silly OC, and I'll see you around. Bye for now!